Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session. My name is Shankar Sahai, and I blog and talk about anything and everything related to customer success. It could be, best practices, challenges, careers, technology, customer success ops, which is very close to my heart. And today, in this episode, we are going to actually talk about something that doesn't get discussed a whole lot, and which is talking about CSM mindset needed for not just SaaS, but also non-SaaS customers. And to help us with this topic, I'm happy to introduce a very special guest with us today, Lawrence Fu. He is going to help us understand, what exactly is the role of a CSM when you're working with customers that are not the traditional SaaS customers. So I will, on that note, actually, I will pause and let Lawrence introduce himself, and then I will chime in with a couple of other special things about Lawrence. So Lawrence, go ahead.
Well, thank you, Shankar. Excited to be here. I've worked with customers and clients for a number of years now, around 15 years, mostly in advertising and SaaS platforms, and recently transitioned to staffing. And staffing might have a connotation to it, but I think that through this webinar, I think we'll be able to talk about some customer success and client services aspects with staffing.
Okay, thanks, Lawrence. So Lawrence and I actually know each other for about 5 years now, right, Lawrence? Approximately about 5 years or so. And I mean, when I first met Lawrence, he was single, and since then, he's gotten married and has a new kid. 1 year or 6 month, I think it is, 6 month old daughter now. So I'm sure your kid keeps you busy 24/7. And how is that experience going, being the new dad?
Yeah, thanks. It's so exciting. Everybody that has a kid has gone through it before, but this is my first, and so it's going through the experience for the first time. And I'm glad, I'm lucky to be working from home. I'm glad that I could take a 15-minute break and go to the living room and squish the baby a little bit, come back refreshed. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, thankfully, my kids are much older, so I can fully empathize with you looking at the rear view mirror. So, well, thanks for coming. I know it's tough. People are super busy, and so thanks for joining. So, actually, Lawrence, maybe I think I would like to start with, if you can just describe your current role for our audience, so they can kind of get a better sense of what you do in your kind of day-to-day job.
Sure. Well, in my current day-to-day, I work with a company called Artec. We're a woman-owned staffing IT solutions company. I've been around for about 30 years. One client that I work with is a Big Four bank, and so with the Big Four bank, it's a lot of people over there, a lot of people to meet. In my current role, I'm a business development a client services manager, customer success manager, a business development representative, whatever you want to call it. Really, it's really more about servicing the clients at the end of the day. You could say there's a difference between a delivery team and a client servicing aspect of it. So I'm on the client side, working with the clients, and my job is to make connections, meet people, develop a relationship, and ultimately find out what they need, hear about their story, hear about their challenges, their pain points, and if they have IT solutions that we can provide them, we're happy to do it. And so, going back to the first point at the top of this conversation is, the CSM mindset outside of just a SaaS platform. And so I think from my previous experience with client services, I think that's transitioned pretty well over to the world of HR recruiting.
So, Lawrence, you have one customer that you work with, or do you work with multiple customers?
Well, I used to work with multiple customers. I used to work with big oil and also healthcare companies. Just the nature of this one Big Four client, it's such a big client, it's such a big giant that a lot of the staffing companies the IT solutions companies, they would want to focus just on that one client.
Okay. So, you mentioned that, the role you were able to transition it into this non-traditional customer, I would call. So how would you compare this role in terms of differences, and what kinds of uh, things you had to kind of transition over, and what things just came over naturally?
Sure. I think the biggest difference is the depth of knowledge you need to have for your clients. So when Shankar, when you and I worked together, there was maybe 15, 20 clients that you would work with, maybe uh, 5 to 10 that are, top enterprise clients, or your top 5, top 10. I think that's mostly true with a lot of the startups or mid-sized companies that we work with. But when you step into servicing one client, and the type of clients and the type of industry that I'm in, it might just be one client, but there are hundreds of clients within that client, and they all do different things. If you go to, say, for example, a the big oil, gas, and big oil company that I was representing, you think you just pull up to the gas station and you pull up and get gas, and that's it. But once you start servicing the client, you have to understand the upstream, the midstream, the downstream, whatever that means, right? You have to understand the refinery business. You have to understand the global security aspect of it, the cloud computing aspect of it, the HR and the legal as well, because those are all also departments that I was servicing. And so you have to be very agile with speaking those types of languages. You don't, the old adage of you don't have to be an expert in anything, right? You just have to be uh, sharp enough, or um, attuned enough to be able to talk about it and talk around it. It's actually a lot more enhanced with this type of client, because have to switch from uh, knowing the differences between Angular 6 and Angular 9, or cloud computing or Azure, what's the latest with Azure. Or you also have to talk about the soft skills, like, say, a business analyst or scrum master, understanding what the difference between waterfall and agile, and maybe even extension of the agile practice, Kanban. So you have to understand that a lot more, and act like you're smart enough, at least, to be able to talk educated with these clients.
Okay. So, you mentioned Agile and Kanban board. Is this something specific to the customers that you're working with, or you think this is something that will work across non-SaaS customers?
That's a good question. I think that's morely the technology, the SaaS customers. Well, let me go back. It's actually probably, as a client services person, client services manager to a SaaS platform, you don't have to ever talk about Agile or Kanban. That's not in your world. You have to service the platform. And then so with the technology people, the actual engineers and developers, then you have to know about it. Then you have to talk about it, talk around it. And so I think that goes back to what types of products or services or platforms you service. You can have you can service the best bucket in the world, and you have to service that very well. Or it could be a subscription plan, or people, or events. You can represent a venue, or a service. And so with all those, of course, you don't talk about agile with those platforms, with those products and services and subscriptions, but you still have to have that CSM mindset of white glove service. One mantra I've actually shared with Shankar when I first joined that company is that everybody's a client, even my manager, even the products or product support people, even the sales team, even the engineers. They all, you as a client services person, you're the point of contact, and so everything flows through you, and you have to understand that everybody needs something from you, and so you have to service those people. So I think that kind of goes back to, again, the servicing servicing the clients, but also representing the product or the service.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, Lawrence, actually, because a lot of times CSMs focus so much on the outside, the external customers, that they completely forget that they still have folks inside the building, so to speak. Everyone is virtual these days, but people get what I'm trying to say. But that even internally, you are you have customers, and in many of the skills that are useful in the outside world are also very useful to work with internal customers. So you mentioned a few challenges, Lawrence. I mean, are there any other challenges, that you had that you found you had to kind of, learn and improvise and come up to speed on?
Sure. Yeah, it's a great question. I was actually looking forward to answering this question. Um, the nature of a product or technology is you work on it, you tinker on it, and then it becomes what it needs to be, and the client's happy. And then something else comes up, either a bug or a new feature request, and then you do the same thing. You go talk to the engineers, product people, figure it out, voila, here you go. But the nature of the industry I'm in and the types of products or platform or service that I represent is actually people. And people are the most unpredictable product ever. And so when you're talking to the manager about, say, a person, a talent, a consultant that they want to bring on to fill a particular need, to fill a hole in the team, it you don't know what the person is going to say with the contract. You're putting people together. You're the ultimate matchmaker, and so an example is someone had a brain tumor about a week before they started. Never knew about the brain tumor, and so you have to, of course, have a very empathetic mindset, but also keeping the business moving. Hey, how can we get this person involved when they're ready? But also, how can we service the clients with their expectation of someone's going to start working, start filling a need, start contributing to the team? And I think around that is also dealing with the other side of it is I have to fire people, unfortunately, when they're not performing. I have to tell them that there is a hiring freeze and a budget cut and a rate reduction. For my roster of people that I helped place, there is around, for example, maybe 30 people on the team or across the company that I represent, and you have to have 30 different conversations with the same message, with the same empathetic, same feeling, same emotional touch. And so those are all difficult aspects of the job, which I those are my responsibilities. You always have to do some things that you are not so excited about, but ultimately it's a responsibility that I want to take on. And so when you're dealing with a product or technology, of course, you think, okay, this is the product I represent. There's really not much emotion behind it, right? If the only emotion is really if you're delayed and there is a delay in the service where the bug won't get fixed, your client might get mad, might get upset. You can deal with that, but you kind of do feel for people whenever they're going through life events that you have to kind of take into account. So that might be a one instance where it's very, very different from the technology world.
No, but Lawrence, again, I think you touched upon empathy a couple of times there, and I think that is one of the pillars of what CSMs, whether working in the SaaS or non-SaaS traditional customers, must bring to the table, because empathy forms so much of the foundation for where other things get built on. Like you mentioned in your case, empathy for someone who had a brain tumor or similar types of things, and you have to kind of get customers buy-in in terms of replacements and the impact, and yet minimize the impact to the projects, and which is kind of similar to on the SaaS side. If a release slips or because some engineer is sick or something else happens, and yet you want to make sure that the features that you promise your customers are going to be available mostly on time, if not exactly on time, and trying to represent the customer to your developers in the SaaS world, and in this case, representing the side of your talent that you place with the customers. So empathy, absolutely, I feel is one of the strong pillars of succeeding as a CSM. Um, are there other anecdotes, Lawrence, that you feel would be educational for the audience to try and be in your shoes for a few moments?
Sure, sure. Well, I say that being in client services or customer success for however many years, 15 years might not be a lot to some people, but it might be a lot to others. And so I'd say one story I can tell is when I was with the ad network. We were servicing a client, a big telecommunication client. We were running their ad campaigns, and so the it was a startup at the time. This client was a huge win for the sales team, and so we tried to service that client before I got there, and we didn't do well. This is a long time ago, so I can't name the details. I don't know the details, but what I do know is my experience. And so when they gave us a second chance again to run their program, I was the second account manager hired there, and so I took it on, and I was very proud in how we did it. We turned a test budget into right around 6 renewals, and those 6 renewals it turned into hundreds of $1,000s of revenue for the company for the startup. It turned out to be the biggest win for the clients. Sorry, for the company in quite a long time. And I did this when I was still a young account manager, client services manager. But when I go talk to people, whether it's an interview or talk to a manager such as yourself, Shankar, is I'm still very proud of it. And so that gives me the confidence as a young CSM that I can do this job, that I have the right mindset for this job. When you talk about client services, there's a difference between a customer support person, a customer success person, a client services person, and even higher than that, right? Like a concierge or something like that. Whatever levels there are. But I think that having that client services mindset and having the white glove service, believing that everybody's a client, trying to treat everybody like that, I think that goes a long way. And I think that's a story I'm still proud of, even though that was many years ago.
No, that's a good one. One other thing that I get asked quite often is, if someone wants to get into this role, what would you like to suggest to them? I mean, what should they? Like you said, you discovered you had the right mindset. What are skills, mindsets, or other types of things that you would kind of advise someone who is trying to get into a similar role such as yours?
Sure. You know, before client services, when I was maybe in high school trying to figure out what my major is in college, I wanted to do something product centric, and so I chose marketing. And I wanted to even be an industrial designer because, well, industrial design is very cool. Just you create products all day, and so I think in my nature, I think I'm a product person. I want to look at a product and find out the story about it, find how we can improve it. Uh, why is this element in this product there? Why not another element? Um, it's just very interesting to me. So I think as a client services person, you need to have belief and conviction in what you do. And you look at a product, you have conviction at a product to represent it. And so if it's a SaaS platform or humans or subscription plan, you have to be a fan of that. And so if you're not, I think it comes through. You don't have that conviction to talk around it. If, for example, if you're in a kickoff call and you're talking about a SaaS platform, the salesperson just pump that client up. Oh, I'm so excited to get started. I'm giving you all this money. What can we do now? How can we partner? And if you're a client services person that you don't really believe in it, I think that goes through. That level of excitement just drops. the amount of renewal money just dropped. The chances of renewal just dropped. So I think you definitely have to have that conviction of what you do, and find the good attributes in the product or service and promote that.
Okay, no, that's true. I mean, if you're not have conviction, as you said, or have the passion, um, don't do it, because customers will figure it out, and it will show in renewals and higher churn and lower renewals, and
Right.
and and and, and it will just kind of get you in trouble.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and kind of like when we're talking about the types of products you represent, if you don't believe in the world's best bucket, if you have no interest in buckets, then you shouldn't be representing a bucket. Go find something else that you're passionate about, that you want to represent. So it could be, if you're passionate about events or vacations, find those clients that need those vacation packages that you can represent. Clients are still, um, customers are transactional and clients are renewal based, subscription relationship based. I'm sorry to say, relationships based. And so as long as you can find an industry or an event or a product or service or whatever it is that is relationship based, then you can definitely do the client services role.
yeah, no, excellent point, Lawrence. Very relevant in today's world. Um, so one quick thing on the future of this role. Do you see this role continuing as is? Do you see this role evolving, in terms of tools maybe, or have you felt that, this is a transitionary phase, or this is something that is going to grow? How do you see the future of your current role?
Uh, with my current role, and then there's SaaS and technology. I think with my particular role with servicing clients in an HR setting or a staffing setting or technology setting, it's very cyclical. I don't think the process really changed too much, but it's really more about the technologies and the methodologies. And so, like I mentioned, Angular 9 is the newest Angular, and then there's going to be Angular 10 later on, and then there's Azure Cloud. Cloud's been around, but it's relatively new in terms of big companies adopting it and how they adopt it. You can get the product roadmaps, and you talk about road mapping. It's very interesting to learn more about. But then there's also methodologies. A lot of companies, they're going from waterfall to agile, the transformation, so they need an agile coach. They're talking about Kanbans, they're talking about Scrum teams, and all that. So the technology and the methodologies, I think, will continue to evolve. I think maybe more metrics driven as well. Um, with our tech, we're definitely metrics driven, and there's a lot of reports and metrics to tell you how you're doing and what you should which which lines of business you should go after and how are you doing with these particular managers here. But I think also with SaaS platforms and technology, a lot of things have become SaaS and subscription based, and also a lot of metrics as well, like the Tango and Gainsight. Those are all, um, you know, 5, 10, 15 years or so. But taking the industry to adopt, it's pretty fascinating to see what you can do with those platforms now.
Yeah, no, yeah, I mean, I agree with you on the metrics part. I mean, I think many verticals use, industry standard metrics, but I think there is definitely scope for introducing more industry specific or customer centric metrics that do a better job of, measuring the performance of the CSM team, maybe, or even the company as a whole, the service, whatever that service might be, SaaS or non-SaaS or talent or
Mhm.
or vacation packages, as you said, as one of your examples. So, I mean, I agree with that part completely, and I think metrics will keep evolving as people understand more and more about this role and the role matures. Because CSM is relatively a new role when you compare it to, let's say, development engineers, which has been around for 50 years now or more maybe. So yeah, I totally agree with that. Again, Lawrence, thanks so much for your time. I know, you're super busy, and and I think you made some great points. I really loved, you mentioned empathy a couple of times, which I think is critical for CSMs. And other, big takeaway I think was the point you made about passion and believing in the product or the service or the SaaS or whatever it is that you are associated with, and taking that role only if you have a passion for what you're doing, because it's not like development where you can kind of hide somewhere maybe, because everything you do is visible to internal customers, to external customers, and it all starts showing up eventually. So I think passion, empathy, and focusing on the customers are probably the big three takeaways. I mean, for me at least, and I'm sure the audience will find some other big takeaways as well. Again, for people watching, please follow the Info-IV page on LinkedIn to get updates on the next episodes. And also, if you just want to get some great customer success content, we post on this page all the time. So please follow Info-IV page on LinkedIn. And thank you once again for Lawrence, and to everyone else joining today's session.